Hello there, welcome back to the booth here at Pro Tour Dominaria. That's Paul Chiano, Marshall Sutcliffe. We're happy to have you along for coverage of our booster draft here on day number 1. Of course, this is where it all comes to a head. We are in round number 3. In other words, the finals of many of these pods. And what that means is this is the player's last chance to try to make their mark with the booster draft portion. This is the part that they have less control over. You can prepare all you want, but you can't control what cards you open. And then we'll be transitioning over to standard. So this is a very important match here in the early stages of the tournament. In the feature match area, we've got Owen Turtenwald and Zhi Yemin. They are both 2-0. They're playing for that coveted 3-0 draft to start off their tournament. Let's head on down. It's time for round 3 here from Pro Tour Dominaria. Hello and welcome back to coverage at Pro Tour Dominaria. Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Paul Chian, and we are ready for round 3 action, where we have our last round of booster draft here on day number 1 before we transition over to standard for our constructed portion. So, 2 players playing in the feature match area, looking for that 3-0 start. Beautiful way to start your Pro Tour. First player up here, Zhi Yemin, and Zhi is playing just in his second Pro Tour. He was really good, though, 10-6 at his other Pro Tour that he's played. A very strong finish.
That's a great start.
Yeah, that was Hour of Devastation. On the other side of the battlefield, well, we all know that guy. That's Owen Turtenwald, the Hall of Famer. Plays for Team Ultimate Guard, as you can see. And he made the Hall of Fame a couple of years ago in 2016. He has 4 Pro Tour top 8s on his resume. And with a strong finish in the booster draft here, he will look to transition over into standard and maybe make another run at a top 8.
Yeah. It looks like we have kind of 2 very different approaches to draft here. Zhi Yemin with a white-black aggressive strategy.
See, 3 colors here from Turtenwald.
Oh, yeah. Jeskai Control. He's got a lot of goodies. If you take a look at his hand, he's holding a Siege Gang Commander. But it doesn't stop there. He's also playing Joda along with Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, all in his deck.
Oh, boy.
Yep. So you go to 24.
Ooh, I haven't seen that card be cast that often.
Look at this, a pair of unicorns. I thought they were like unique or something. Like,
They are not legendary, in fact.
Now we've got a herd of them on the battlefield. Zhi using the not often cast Blessing of Bells Unlocked to get his unicorn over that Drake. Does get the job done, though Turtenwald continues to apply to put blockers on the battlefield and seems content to trade off basically whenever given the opportunity to do so. And it makes sense given what we know about his late game with cards like you mentioned, Siege Gang Commander Teferi.
His late game is just so incredibly powerful. And this Siege Gang is just immediately going to stabilize the board here. Zhi Yemin, white-black, has lots of just efficient 2/2 creatures, and the Siege Gang is just going to completely stop everything.
This is a beating here for Zhi. The strategy that he's chosen to bring is one that you don't see that often, but it can work. It's a black-white deck that often leans on historic cards to get over the hump. But with the mana draw that Zhi's brought, it's not really going very well, as he's missed his 4th land drop for a couple of turns. We'll be hitting it this turn thanks to a swamp off the top, but has some uncastable cards stuck in his hand at the moment. Like, he's got a Banalish Marshal in his hand, and he's going to be on swamp plains.
Yeah.
Oof.
And see, that is the cost sometimes of looking to play those triple casted cards in your 2-color deck. Oftentimes you just won't be able to cast it, and you really have to heavily skew your mana base to be able to do so. And in fact, Yemin actually did that. You know, he's playing 10 planes in his deck, but, you know.
Well, he's going to have to settle for an even sentry here, and that does not look good in the face of a Siege Gang Commander. Owen Turtenwald with the ability to simply trade off 1 Goblin token and 2 mana to kill the board.
Owen can just play a land here and just sack all of his tokens to completely decimate Zhi's board with just 1 card. And he'll have a Siege Gang Commander still left on the battlefield.
A 2/2 with a relevant ability. Unbelievable. Siege Gang Commander in that absolute uppermost tier of cards in the format. And you can see why here.
What are your thoughts on a 4-for-1? Is that reasonable?
I am interested in a 4-for-1. And it looks like he's going to go ahead and let that last unicorn survive. By the way, chat says it's a miracle of unicorns.
Is that
I don't know.
multiple unicorns?
I
Did
kind of
not know
believe
that.
them, but they
You
wouldn't lie
could
to
trick
us,
me.
would they?
Yeah. No, I don't think chat would ever lie to us.
They never have.
No, not even once.
Why would they start now?
Wow, and Owen actually has a blink of an eye in his hand too. So if he really wants, he can use that blink of an eye to bounce the Siege King commander for additional value.
If that happens, what you're going to hear is my headset hit the table and then a door slam as I walk out, because I don't know if I can stand to watch that. That
Hey,
is
look,
just
another
insane.
2-2.
Really? He has to play Quende into this now?
Oh, no.
Oh, my goodness sakes. This is easily the worst matchup possible from Zhi Yemin's perspective.
Yeah.
And we're just going to see a cold water snapper hit the battlefield. With Turtenwald at a nice 16 life, he feels pretty comfortable here, I think.
Yeah. I think he was kind of considering using the Siege King there, but he didn't have anything else to do with his mana, so that would just feel really bad. And this might be an opportunity. I mean, let's take a look at Zhi's hand just to confirm, but I believe he's got a Black Blade Reforged in his hand. So if he has a land,
He can cast an equip?
he can cast an equip, which would be difficult, but I don't think he does. Oh, because that would be a big swing.
Little did not have the extra mana. I wonder if he should have attacked there.
Oh, just
I don't know. Just he's in desperation mode, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
But I think the Black Blade does change things a bit. He didn't even cast it.
Yeah. I guess he's waiting to go for the ambush. But the thing is, there's two 2/2s on the battlefield. I think Owen's probably going to aim that Siege King commander at the legendary double striker.
Right. Owen's got Joda now, but he has deftly left up that 2 mana, including a red, so he can activate Siege King Commander if needed. And even with a land here for Zhi Yemin, he will unfortunately not be able to go for that equip without just getting blown out.
And given that Zhi has gained a bunch of life off of his unicorns, I don't think Owen chose not to attack with the snapper. Just to kind of preserve his life total and knowing that this Joda will, and just the ultimate power of his deck in the late game will kind of take over this game.
And look at Owen. He says, whoa, okay, hello. He chooses not to use Siege Commander just yet. He has plenty of mana. Oh, boy, is that a Wizard's Lightning off the top, too?
It sure is. And Joda, guess what?
Backup plan.
Wizard. Joda's a wizard.
Oh, look at that.
Get that discount.
That's handy.
Yeah.
And that means that Owen Turtenwald feels just fine with going for the attack. He basically gets to make it so that Zhi really never is going to have the opportunity to cleanly go for the Black Blade Reforged without Owen Turtenwald having numerous ways to cover that. Like, for example, right now, Zhi could go like land, tap 3 swamps, try to go for the equip, and he could even have a card like Adamant Will in his hand, and it still wouldn't work because Owen has the backup plan.
He's got the lightning.
This is what Owen's doing. He's going to slowly but surely cut off all routes to possible victory because he knows that he's in a good position right now.
Was that?
I think it was Naban.
Okay. Yeah, Sarah Angel is kind of annoying here.
Yeah.
It does kind of halt the offensive. Owen can still choose to attack with the snapper, but not sure if he's interested in trading the Joda for the Sarah Angel, rather. Although that also just doesn't seem like an unreasonable trade either.
No.
15.
And ostensibly, Owen Turtenwald's game plan in the late part of the game is much stronger than what Zhi has, though he won't be 100% sure of that.
Yeah. Owen really just wants to find that second island that allows him to play the Naban. Oh, no, sorry. I thought it was the other one. I thought it was the other Wizard Lord.
Naru Meha.
Naru Meha. It allows him to play the blink of an eye in his hand kicked to return that Siege King commander.
Yeah, that is where I'd want to be for sure.
Yeah. Owen putting himself in a situation to extract maximum value here. He could have used that Siege King commander a long time ago to get rid of that Quende, but it's not providing an immediate threat, so he can just choose to wait. Oh,
this game
changes things.
Yeah, this game has finally gone long enough for Zhi Yemin to find that third plains, and that will put Benalish Marshall on the stack.
Sure.
And that could change things as well. other creatures you control get +1/+1. That means that, for example,
Oh, this is
Zero
going
Angel
to
now
be
has
huge.
5 toughness.
Owen now seeing, look, if Zhi is on the equip plan, then this is going to be huge.
Yep, this is a major blowout. We're going to see Wizard's Lightning kill Banalish Marshall, and then the Siege Gang Commander is going to finish off. But this is getting interesting because look at this. Zhi Yemin now has worked his way up to 6 lands. One more, and all of a sudden, Blackblade Reforged can be a real problem for Turtenwald because if you throw it on anything, it's good.
Yeah.
And that's also why Zhi Yemin has declined to attack here with Sarah Angel. Doesn't want to offer trades when he's trying to leverage a card like Blackblade Reforged.
Yeah. At the same time, Owen is going to be able to get in for a lot of damage this turn. At this point, Owen might be interested in getting that Sarah Angel off the board with the trade. He did draw a Seal Away, which doesn't work against creatures with Vigilance. Of course, it gets rid of tap creatures. So now he's like, look, I'm presenting the trade here because this is a 2-turn clock if you choose not to block. And if you do choose to attack with the Sarah Angel, or even draw a land to equip the Sarah Angel, Owen does have the blink of an eye to bounce it.
Full nasty, yeah. Zhi has been behind for the duration of this game outside of turn 2, and now has to try to find a line not only to survive, but the hard part too is he's got to piece together some way to win the game. Blackblade Reforged usually does a pretty good job of giving you win conditions galore, especially with an extra land, but boy, Blink of an Eye is definitely the type of card you don't want to see if you're trying to go for the Reforged plan.
I wonder if he's considering the double block on the Snapper. Could also just trade with the... I think you might just want to get that flyer off the board. If you're kind of committing to blocking with the Sarah Angel. It's also a safer block. Owen does have 3 cards in hand.
Oh yeah, if he goes for the double block on the turtle, it's a disaster. So he's going to take the much safer single block line here.
11.
And Turtenwald says, great.
Yep.
Go.
Voldalian Arcanist is the follow-up play for Turtenwald. Likely not super relevant here. But the Seal Away that you mentioned before. Looks like just Blink of an Eye. Does have 2 cards left in his hand.
I think he has a Seal Away.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
That gives him a solid insurance plan against land equip. Although, look at this. Urgaros, the empty one, has hit the battlefield now for Zhi. Another good target. Well, I mean, there's no such thing as a bad target, but another equipable creature with Blackblade Reforged. Though, again, Owen just seems to have the answers for the game plan that...
Ooh, are we getting aggressive here?
Oh, we are. Look at this. Blink of an Eye, attack with everything. How much is it? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9?
Yeah, Zhi doesn't have a great... He could block the 1/3 to have his creature survive, but he will still just take 8 and go down to 3, so...
Take 7. 4.
Oh, it's the 3-1, sorry. They look very similar. But yeah, now... I mean, even if he just plays the creature here, this is just... Is this a lethal attack, or is he 1 short? He is 1 short. If he plays the Urgaros, Owen can attack with everything. Zhi has to block the Snapper.
Chump, yep.
Right.
And Zhi says, you know what? I've had enough. Yep. Owen Turtenwald successfully navigates through what was eventually a bunch of mana for Zhi. At first, he was actually stuck for quite a while. And, you know, when you see Siege Gang Commander against a couple of 2/2s, it's not going to go well.
That was the best Siege Gang I've ever seen.
And it didn't go well. But Owen honestly got a lot of information in the later part of the game about what Zhi is up to, and will be able to maybe make some sideboard changes accordingly. In the meantime, you can see our future match area does have the Kenji mirror match. That's Kenji Egashira from the United States against Kenji Sumura from Japan on our back table. And I see Oliver Polak-Rotman versus Eric Froelich down there as well. We'll be back with more draft after this.
Show off your love of Magic the Gathering with premium statues from Prime 1 Studios. Each figure stands 28 inches tall and is carefully sculpted in high-quality resin. Pre-order yours today at SideshowCollectibles.com.
Welcome back to the feature match area here at Pro Tour Dominaria. We're in Richmond, Virginia. Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Paul Cheon. We also have our floor reporter, Tim Willoughby, with some updates from the floor.
Thanks, Marshall. We've had 3 great games already so far. All of our back table matches now on game 2. For Eric Froelich, he was able to pick up his first game against Oliver Polak-Rotman. His Blue-Red Wizards deck with Adeliz and a bunch of spells able to pick up game 1 against Polak-Rotman, suffering on a 6-card mulligan. For John Finkel, it was also Adeliz getting things done, but he had a bit more work to do. His Khan got beaten down fairly solidly by the greenback creatures of Vertullo, but a big fight with fire cleared a path and allowed Adeliz to make a big attack in. Then finally we have the 2 Kenjis on the back table. Tsumura versus Igashiga. Tsumura on green-white with lots of knights, including a history of Benalia, but ultimately Igashira picking up that game 1, Cloud Reader Sphinx, and a whole host of other flyers able to just soar over those knights.
Thank you so much, Tim. Keeping an eye on all of our back tables. As we work our way through, you can see our front tables still in shuffle mode. And it looks like the match may have just ended between Oliver Polak-Rotman and Eric Froelich there, because I saw a handshake.
Yeah.
I believe it was Ifro.
I also saw a smiling Ifro.
Then so you know it was.
It's probably a win. I mean, to be fair, I'd also have a huge grin on my face if I 3-0'd my pod, so.
Of course you would.
Yeah.
All right, we're underway here. Game number 2 between Owen Turtenwald and Zhi Yemin.
I don't see the Siege Gang. I don't know, you might need to send it back.
He put it on top.
Okay.
Just a minute. No, you can play. They're good? Okay, go ahead. Go.
And we are underway in game number 2.
Did Zhi choose to draw?
It does seem to be the case.
Wow.
I am really surprised to see that. That does happen more often than you'd think in this format, even in booster draft, not just in sealed deck, but it does not happen that often from a white-black aggro deck.
Right. I'm also it's a little curious that he chose to lead with Swamp in his deck that has the Benelish Marshal. Oftentimes you just want to lead with the planes for the chance of, running planes into the Benelish Marshal.
Cannot be correct to lead with a Swamp if you have a planes in your hand. Now, sometimes you don't want to run it out on turn 3, but usually you do.
Right.
Turns out a 3/3 for 3 is pretty nice, with the other ability aside even.
Yeah, I feel like a deck with a bunch of Knight of New Benalias really wants to go first, so very interesting.
I think it's going to not work out well for him, although, no, they say that.
Okay.
Hammered Explorer just trades. Oh, he hit Squee!
Ooh,
oh, combo town for Owen. Look at that smile. Just like we drew it up. And by the way, Squee versus 2 Knight of New Benalia.
Yeah.
Nice.
Excellent.
And once again, Owen Turtenwald content to just keep on trading.
Yeah, also, by the way, the combination of Squee plus Siege Gang Commander, oof. 5 mana, nice. 5 mana shock with just being able to recur that every single turn.
5x shock, I love it. Oh, but look at this turn for Turtenwald, effectively casting 6 mana worth of spells for just 4 mana, killing Juggernaut with Wizard's Lightning thanks to Tolarian Scholar. Nice sequencing there from Turtenwald to make sure that he was able to deal with really a problematic threat. Now his board looks fantastic. Turtenwald takes a look over and Gian just says, "What do you got, kiddo? What do you got for me?"
Yeah,
he's the Hall of Famer here.
Does he want to trade this 3-1 for the 2-3?
That was, by the way, Ifro winning 2 games to 0 on that back match that we saw.
It does not seem like a horrible trade, just given the fact that there's that Squee on the battlefield, so that 3-1's not going to do a whole lot.
I'm with you, Paul. Plus,
okay.
Is that Healing Grace?
I believe it is.
And if you have any idea how good Healing Grace is, the fact that Owen Turtenwald is now reading it should give you all the answers you need. I've actually talked about this a little bit on the podcast. I actually do think that Healing Grace is a sideboard card that you can bring in against red decks like this. I don't think it's ever great, but it does hit the playable realm occasionally.
Yeah.
That said, it's a card you rarely see cast in Dominaria Limited.
Right, you definitely don't need to take it very highly. They're basically free towards the end of the packs, but I do think it's a good option against the red decks. You know, you know, Owen has already shown cards like Wizard's Lightning, and it's an excellent way to kind of foil that, and also just in racing situations.
Yep, absolutely. That 3 life gain can really matter, but Turtenwald's still sitting in a beautiful position here with his 4/4 Guardians Koilos holding back 2 3-powered creatures. And Zhi Yemin just was like, ugh, go. Like, this is where you're supposed to be able to pull that thing. And look at this. Turtenwald just sends it into the red zone.
I'm sure he's taking this one.
What does Zhi Yemin have? He's got to have something.
I see just a handful of spells. Like, what does he have?
Squeak.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
So a bunch of 5-drops, a Benelish Marshal that he can't cast, and a Sergeant at Arms that he's waiting to kick.
Yep. So he has a 3-drop that he can't cast, 2 5s, and a 6 effect.
Wow, that just like the exact types of cards. It's like, imagine you're in Owen's spot. It's like, what do you have in your hand? Like, just a bunch of uncastable cards.
Now, Zhi did draw himself a castable card with an Aven Sentry here that actually can start getting in for damage in the air on top of it. Right now, Zhi is actually considering if he wants to attack his creatures into Squee.
Yeah, I believe so, because, you know, Owen still does have to pay 3 mana to get that Squee back, but it still doesn't seem like a profitable enough trade, so it looks like he's just choosing to play out the Sentry here. Also, if he does draw the white source for the Benelish Marshal, the Duskboar Thallid can attack through the Squee.
That being said, Owen still has attacks, and he's going to go ahead and attack again for 4. Hey, these are big hits of damage.
I wonder if she's contemplating the double block here with the 2 smaller creatures.
So it's going to be not a super exciting card, but a fine play for the turn.
Oh, and
Rampaging Cyclops.
Z does find the land here, so his hand has now been unlocked. He can start dropping a bunch of threats. My guess is that he wants to go with the evasion route here.
What about Yargle?
Play out the Serra Angel.
You don't want to disrespect Yargle.
Yeah, you want to protect it. You want to play that as the last threat in your hand, Marshal.
Oh, you're good, Paul. You're really good.
You want to sandbag your bombs.
Wow. I was impressed. All right, so it's going to be Serra Angel hitting the battlefield here for Zhi, but you know what? We've got an update that I know many of you are anticipating here. This is the Kenji Samura versus Kenji Igashira match that was happening on our back table. Tim, what happened between those 2 Kenjis?
Well, we have now had a handshake because Kenji Igashira, 2 games straight, has been able to take down his namesake Kenji Samura. It turns out that Tatiova in a blue-green-black deck is pretty much the trump card when it comes to playing against green-white without too many ways of removing it. So much card advantage for Kenji Igashira, able to pick up the win, and 2-1 going into Constructed.
Wow, thanks, Tim. Great stuff for another first-time Pro Tour competitor, Kenji Igashira, back there knocking off the Hall of Famer to get a good finish, a 2-1 out of his draft. And then he'll transfer over to his specialty, which is Standard.
Right, except for the opposite. Yeah, I mean, Kenji has to be happy that he has a winning record going into the constructed portions because he is known primarily as a limited player. He mostly does a ton of drafts. You know, and I would say he's likely one of the better limited players at the Pro Tour. He just plays so much.
Yeah, he's already got 80 Dominaria drafts under his belt coming in. Here's Divest now from Zhi Yemin. Taking a look at what Owen has going on. Double blink of an eye, a big turtle, and a 2-headed giant. So he can only pick the turtle or the giant.
So, and Owen decided not to play the giant here to keep up the blink because he knows that this is kind of a racing situation here.
He gets mildly punished, just in the sense that he could lose one of his better threats. I mean, the giant, depending on how well you roll a dice, can be very good. And the turtle, of course, is just a massively problematic card for a deck that's looking to try to pound through on the ground.
This could be very punishing, though. So Z played that Divest. Now, if Owen uses that Blink of an Eye on the Serra Angel, Z has to have drawn a land to replay that Serra Angel. Ooh. So now that he knows that the Blink of an Eye is in Owen's hand, if he doesn't have a land to play the Serra Angel, he's just going to play the Benelish Marshal here to at least get it for 4 with the Aven Sentry.
But that we'll likely see the Angel sent packing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Angel was going down regardless. Because Owen doesn't have a good answer to this era. So, yeah.
A little bit awkward here for Turtenwald not having his second blue source as well. As, boy, he'd love to be able to kick that blink of an eye and get that value. Just simply returning cards to hand isn't really going to get the job done for Turtenwald. Right. If you're not applying pressure, bouncing your opponent's creature is just a minor setback. It doesn't really get you anywhere, and you're down a card in the transaction as well.
Yeah, we've seen this happen in back-to-back games where Owen hasn't been able to find that second blue source. I mean, he is playing a 3-color deck with no fixing, and oftentimes blue decks tend to have a lot of cantrips and stuff like that, but he really doesn't have that. His quote-unquote cantrips are those blink of an eyes, which requires him to find those 2 blue sources. There's no divination, no opt.
Those 2? Yeah.
Let's take a look at the attack force here from Zhi. He's decided to leave back the Benalish Marshal and both the Knight and the Deathbloom Thallid. So those are going to stay home, given the potential blockers you see on the other side there for Turtenwald.
Yeah, so this is going to be close.
Yeah, this is getting to be a real game here between these two, with Turtenwald down to 7, but up a game means that he may have a chance to sneak one out. But if he doesn't, well, we'll have a game number 3.
Yeah, this is a very difficult situation for Owen because he isn't able to get value off those blink of an eyes to draw a card. And on top of that, Zhi, he's got that Thallid on the battlefield that's just really good at just kind of chump blocking for a couple of turns. So it's really difficult for me to figure out how Owen gets out of this.
This doesn't really seem to have the right answers, does he? He's going to attack again. Effectively, at least on board, offering a trade for the Thallid, though.
So I like the block with the Thallid because it forces Owen to use the blink of an eye this turn on the Benalish Marshal. And then, so then like, that's kind of like the signal where you go, okay, the coast is clear. I can play my Serra and not worry about having it get bounced on the following turn.
Ooh, a double block, though, would actually have him losing both of those creatures.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm not in love with that one.
Okay.
It does force the issue in the most straightforward way, but what ends up happening after this? He ends up with ultimately a 2/2 Sapperling token, but he loses a lot of power on board to this block.
1/2 pass.
Yeah, well...
and it also,
well, what's going to happen is he's just going to have a 1... Okay.
Okay, well, you know what? That is interesting now, because that did actually work out pretty nicely there for Zhi. So maybe he had it all sorted and realized that Owen really preferred to play the turtle that turn regardless. Yeah, and that's what he ended up doing.
But regardless here, Zhi just has 2 lethal flyers right now, right? Even if Owen deals with the Marshal, he's got a 3 and a 4 power flyer. It's going to be really hard for him to come back from this, but he chose to play. Okay, so he's going wide.
He's got the Aven Sentry, at the ready rather than the Serra Angel this time, and this should be it. Or no. Actually, does he have lethal? No. Okay, he's got lethal in the air. I was wondering if he had lethal if that creature were to die, but apparently he didn't need it, so he's just going to go ahead and get in there. And why don't we check in with Tim? It looks like the last match has just finished there besides our main feature match. That was between John and Josh back on the corner. Tim, do you have an update for us there?
Yeah, it was pretty much synchronized magic. Josh and John's match finished almost exactly the same time as Owen was able to finish his one off. John Finkel, he was kind of up the whole way through that game. He had Khan, he had Cloud Reader Sphinx with Helm of the Host to get a lot of scrying going on. He was just always going to be drawing better for the entirety of the game. And when you're doing that, it's not too hard to convert it into the win. He does pick up the win, and that's 3-0 for John Finkel in this first draft pod.
Not surprised to see it.
It's getting kind of old, Marshall. John Finkel, 3-0's another draft pod with a great deck.
Oh, man.
Yep.
Poor Paul.
Yeah, all right.
Your whole professional Magic career, you've had to hear this sentence
in
the booth.
I can count, like, on one hand probably the number of 3-0s I've had at the Pro Tour for a draft.
And John just racks them up
Yeah.
as if it were nothing. Take a look at Owen Turtenwald, John's teammate for this tournament. They both were playing, testing with Team Pantheon. That's the testing team's name. Their actual team is Team Ultimate Guard. That's for the team series. But sometimes team series teams will join up with other ones and kind of form a bigger group rather than just the 6.
Yeah, and to be honest, I'm not. Well, nobody should really be surprised that, of course, that the Pantheon is doing very well. But this format also seems tailor-made to kind of the way they like to draft, they approach limited. Oftentimes what I've seen from these guys is they like the value cards. They like slowly grinding out your opponents, taking lots of instants and trying to outplay your opponents. And this format is a little bit slower. There's lots of 2-for-1s available, and I think that plays exactly to the way these guys want to play limited.
Absolutely. Yeah, it fits their style perfectly. Their preferred style, I should say.
Right.
They'll draft however
they can play anything, of course, but...
Oh, no. She just blew 2 tires in a row here. There we go. And we're going to get a game 3 between these two. This is a big game. I know it's early in the tournament, so, nobody's making the top 8 based off of this. But the difference between coming out of the booster draft 3-0 and coming out with a 2-1 can really matter late into day 2, where you have such little wiggle room. And you look back at these matches early and say, is there any way I could have snuck a victory here in the draft? And also, Paul, you should talk to us a little bit about the booster draft portion, because you can prepare all you want for the draft portion, but there is an element of variance to it where, you open the cards that you open. There's nothing you can do there, and your job is to navigate it as best as possible, but that doesn't mean you're going to get a 3-0 every time.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are also times where, people will have very strong color preferences going into certain draft archetypes. Like, I love drafting red-white aggro, but that doesn't mean you should always do it. Martin Yuza in the previous set was like, I really want to be red-white aggro. I really want to be very aggressive and curve out. And then he had this like ridiculously slow control deck, and he still 3-0'd. And that's just what you see from the best drafters. They're very flexible and don't necessarily, sometimes all drafts don't really happen the way you want it to.
All right, we're underway here in game number 3. Is it going to be Owen Turtenwald or Zhi Yemin to take down this all-important deciding third game of the third match of our first draft? The start for Zhi, well, not great, right? Blackblade Reforged, it's a pretty strong card. It's a little clunky, but on a board with no creatures, which is kind of unlikely, honestly, for Zhi. It certainly isn't doing anything for a while. Owen
on team play first, by the way.
Yeah, that's something we should keep an eye on tomorrow, too.
Right.
An Arcanist here for Owen Turtenwald. Well, not great. Pretty slow start, all told. Here's a 4-drop, though. Ooh, that's Quende Pride Ephemeref, and
that's pretty good.
That is a problem. Yeah. Quende's a problem. So we'll see if Owen Turtenwald has an answer, and also how much risk he's willing to take with that answer. Oh, boom.
Oh, there it
is. Siege Gang Commander. One of the 3 best rares in the set.
Yeah.
And it's going to bring with it, of course, its 3 Goblin Friends, 4 cards left in hand for Turtenwald. And Zhi can go for an equip here, but it's an easy chump block for Turtenwald. And if he goes for it, well, he's going to need a way to protect Quende, because some goblins are going to be flying over there. And doesn't seem like that's going to be a way for Zhi to win the game.
Right. But this time, Zhi actually gets an equip off here before Owen has the mana to untap. So this Quende is currently a 7/7. So Owen doesn't actually have the tools, at least with what's on the board.
That's right.
To deal with. Oh, and he has the cast down for the Siege
Oh,
Gang.
my goodness sakes. Owen Turtenwald is in big trouble now. This is not going to end well for Owen unless he can really find his way out quickly, and that's not the type of card he wanted to see. Getting Quende equipped when you're playing against a player whose primary removal is red?
Yeah.
Big opening there.
Right. And Owen does have a lot of bounce in his deck. He has multiple copies of Blink of an Eye, but he currently doesn't have one in hand, and he needs to find one soon.
Look at the hammer that Zhi is trying to drop on Turtenwald.
No chump blocks here.
No, he says, I'm just going to get that goblin out of the way. That one clearly marked for death.
This is 16 damage.
Wow, and Owen Turtenwald now has to seriously consider if he wants to chump block with Cold Water Snapper.
Oh, that feels so bad.
You would think the way that Owen gets out of this
Owen goes,
is
okay.
to bounce the sword and block with the Snapper.
Yeah, Owen realizes that the path to victory is not chump blocking with the Cold Water Snapper here. He needs to find the blink of an eye.
But this
He's
is
going to
just
lead
about
the
done.
goblins back.
That's a lethal Sarah Angel there as well.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, that was 16 damage, as you said, Paul, and that knocked Owen down to 4, and now all of a sudden he's facing lethal Sarah Angel, and of course he's going to have to block Quende for the rest of the game. Oh, man.
To go from no creatures to lethal in 2 turns.
Unbelievable. That one window, and by the way, that was the window after Owen Turtenwald resolved one of the best spells in the format. And he's still just calmly smashing right now with a huge double striker.
Oh, okay, so this isn't horrible. So Owen has an Academy Drake, which he can currently kick to make it into a 4/4, which if Zhi has nothing, he can use that to trade with the Sarah Angel, and then he can use the token to chump block the Quende. So there is still some life, assuming Zhi has nothing.
I wonder if Zhi, I guess it's probably too risky to leave Quende without the equipment, but he actually has a land and could just equip Sarah Angel here to force a chump block with the Academy Drake. I mean, forcing your opponent to chump block with their 7-mana spells, pretty good, but you would have the shields down for Quende, where Owen could use a burn spell.
He could also consider moving it to the Sapperling and attack with everything, because then every creature is lethal, which would get both of the Goblins and the Academy Drake off the board.
Right, and it would end up being a trade for the Drake for the Angel, so a little bit less value, but the board being gone would be really nice here. Let's see what he does. Yeah, he is going to re-equip to which creature? He's going to go for it, put it on the Sapperling, and send everything into the red zone. So we're going to see a trade in the air and a double chump block with these ground creatures. But Turtenwald in a terrible position, facing 2 lethal threats as Zhi calmly passes the turn back.
Owen really wants that blink of an eye. I mean,
yes, it would be huge here.
This is the flyer was the biggest problem, though. So does Owen have a way to get back from this? He needs to start out with at least a creature. What are we working with here?
He has Befuddle and Radiating Lightning, and Zhi really kind of played around that Radiating Lightning in a nice way here by equipping up. And he is incentivized to keep the Radiating Lightning on that Sapperling as well, since it gives him 2 lethal threats. So Turtenwald's going to play his land for the turn so that he can play something off of Befuddle, and he's going to have to, get a little lucky here.
Yeah.
He can survive, though.
So let's see. We're looking at how many lands? We're looking at 7 lands. So the Sapperling is currently in 8/8. I think he's just going to attack with the Sapperling. He doesn't want to, because if Owen has anything, he's just going to lose that Quende.
Right. So he's going to go for Befuddle to try to find something. He finds a land with it, and going to just go ahead and go for the block here. Now the good news for Turtenwald is that did make that Sapperling down to just 4 power.
It's
an 8/8. Yeah, 8/8 minus 4.
Yep. So
and
it's
the Snapper's a 4/5.
Yep. So it's a good clean block there for Turtenwald. That could have bought him.
Oh, he had a land.
No.
He could have played the land.
No. Zhi Yemin with a slight misstep here. Now, he's still significantly ahead, especially with Urgaros. But, boy, he would have been basically a lock to win the game. And now 2 lands in a row for Turtenwald means that Zhi gets to win the game anyway, because he's going to attack with, well, I would say everything. But he ended up just attacking with the 2 lethal threats. And that does it. Owen Turtenwald loses to Zhi Yemin, who wins the match 2-1 and wins his pod.
Yeah. That Blackblade Reforged did a lot of work.
It really did, yeah. That one critical window where you think, well, I mean, Owen's going to resolve a Siege Gang commander. Like, he's probably in fine shape. But, boy, the toughness boost from Blackblade Reforged ended up being really important there.
Yeah, Owen was desperately digging for those. He has 4 copies of Blink of an Eye, along with an Academy Journey Mage in his deck, and he just couldn't find it within his top 5 or 6 cards.
Boy, losing to a token equipped with Blackblade Reforged when you have that kind of bounce in your deck is painful.
Talk about mana sink.
Yeah, a 2-1 for Turtenwald. The G is going to improve to 3-0 as we transition into Standard. We've got that and so much more coming up. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after these messages.
Check out Dominaria Booster Draft Leagues on Magic Online. Draft anytime, play anytime. Available now. For more information, visit mtgo.com.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the News Desk. Maria Bartholdi here, joining you for lunch hour here at the Pro Tour. Good luck, have fun is what we're calling this show. And as you can see behind me, the players are clearing out to take a break for lunch. Draft is now in the books for today, day one, before we head to Constructed coming up later today. But first I want to talk about the race for Draft Masters. So Elias Watsfeld was 2 rounds clear coming into this tournament, and an update there on his chasers, the people who could catch them, who could catch him. Craig Wesco, 1 and 2. Alexander Hayne finished his draft 1 and 2 as well. So what does that mean? BDM is here with Elias himself.
Yeah, thank you, Maria, and thanks, Elias, for coming and sitting with us during lunch.
Thanks for inviting me a beer.
Now, you came in, you had 2 matches clear, and now you just heard that 2 of the people who were right behind you both went 1 and 2.
Yeah.
What does that mean for you? How did you do in your draft?
Well, I went had a comfortable 2-1 finish.
So that puts you 3 matches clear of the field here.
Yes, I guess it depends a little bit on the people below Gray Wisco.
Some possibility that someone at
yes.
27 points could have swept their draft. We don't have all the results in yet, and we'll find out more about that as the weekend goes along. But I want to talk to you about how your draft went. You know, this is a pretty big draft. Normally it's like, hey, it's just the first 3 rounds of our Pro Tour. But a World Championship invite on the line here for you. Talk to me about what you drafted. What was your first pick, and how did the packs round out for you?
Right, so it was quite a straightforward draft. I began with a RAF, the Flash Flyer, and from there I just drafted blue-white. There was a little back card sneaking in pick 2 or pick 3, but I let that one go.
I saw you sneak maybe a green legendary into the deck at some point, right? When you were laying the deck out, did that make it in?
Yeah, a little
Tatiova?
Yeah. I got the 4th pick, so I wasn't sure if I was going to pick it. I didn't have the fixing, but then the Hinterland Harbor came 8th pick maybe.
Oh,
so,
wow. So you're feeling pretty good about that at that point?
Yeah, I never drew him, never cast him or her. I'm not sure.
Yeah. How powerful is that card? I mean, obviously, you know, with a lot on the line, you're willing to splash for this card. How powerful is that card in this draft format?
So Ben Starr calls it a mythic uncommon, and I think I can concur there. It is very, very powerful. If it's being left on the board, it's going to win.
All right, so the draft in the books, round 1, you play against, I mean, you had a very tough table. You had 2 Pro Tour champions, multiple Grand Prix champions.
I did?
Yeah, you had Sean McLaren, you had Lucas Esper Bertu, both Pro Tour champions. You had Yuta Takahashi, who was your first round opponent. So, and you had Andrew Tenjum, who just won a Grand Prix in the last few days, apparently.
Yeah, you are the Pro Tour historian. I don't know these people.
Pretty tough table, but you don't let anything flummox you.
No.
How did that match play out for you?
Which one? The first one?
First one against Yuta Takahashi.
I drew very well that game. And I think Yuta was slightly upset over my draws, and I respect that. I had everything for whatever threats he presented, and the perfect counterspell at the perfect timing.
Okay. So then in round 2, you play against Corrado De Cio, and maybe a little bump in the road here for you?
Oh, very nice Italian guy, and he was playing constructed against me.
Oh, really? What was his deck like?
It was a very good black-green sapling deck, and it could cast a turn 2 5/4. Very strong.
Oh, wow. He had the Steel Leaf Champion. Wow.
Indeed.
It's pretty exciting. I love that deck. Good job, Corrado. But then in round 3, you play against Gaten Bossy. And that seemed to go pretty quickly. I turned around and you were signing a match slip.
Yeah, if you blink, you miss it. It was not the best draws for my opponent, and a rather straightforward victory.
Yeah, you just kind of got to do the thing that your deck does. You play a Davenant Trapper, you play, a Flash Flyer, you just kind of beat down, right?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what do you like in this draft format? What can you share with people at home, or maybe trying to figure out what to do in Dominaria draft? What's your advice as the current, very much most likely person to be going to the World Championship as the draft master?
My advice would be to check out Ben Stark's articles. They are available on channelfireball.com.
That's great. So even though you've had so much success drafting on the Pro Tour, you still will go to Ben Stark's columns for advice on the format?
I check his first pick, first backs, and it's on constructive criticism, I guess. So see, what is he doing? What would I do? And it gets you thinking.
How often do you deviate maybe from what Ben is thinking?
All the time, but it's really pushes the creative process of figuring out what do I want to do. So Ben Stark, he liked to draft saplings. I tried it, wasn't really my thing, but I wouldn't know really that deck was so powerful if I hadn't checked out what he wrote.
All right, Elias Watsweld, in great shape going into another draft tomorrow. Right now you got to turn your attention to Standard, get some lunch. So thanks so much for coming in and talking to us here about the race for the World Championship berth as the draft master.
Thanks so much, BDM. Well, here we are on Dominaria, a set filled with history, the very first plane that Magic ever went to. But how did we get here? Well, it turns out there was a pretty crazy story back in the day for Magic. And to fill you in, if you don't know it, here is the completely and unquestioningly accurate history of Dominaria, Part 1, where everything is pretty much Urza's fault.
So our story begins with a pair of brothers. Beginning of the year, like year 0, Urza is born. Beginning of the year, end of the year, Mishra is born. And they are much alike, but yet very different.
And they're just jerks, and they hate each other. They're always squabbling, like, oh, give me that gear, no, give me that gear. I don't know, whatever artificer kids fight about.
And they get sent away to an archaeological dig by their dad, right? And along with a family friend, Tokasia. And Urza is into it.
Then one day, their master Tokasia, probably just to get them out of the workshop for a little while and stop their bickering, takes them into this cave. Now, Tokasia doesn't know it, but it's an evil cave. The Caves of Koilos, formerly called the Caves of the Damned, but that was not so good for tourism.
And they found this Thran Power Stone, which had been split in half. And of course, each brother took a half, and then Urza decided to name the halves of the Power Stones.
And Urza's like, oh, we got 2 stones. I think I'll take the Might Stone. You can have the Weak Stone, Mishra. And so he gives it to Mishra, and Mishra's like, oh, thanks, Urza.
They got into a fight where they blasted each other with lasers or something, and stormed off in opposite directions.
So in the Cave of Koilos, there is a portal. And through the portal, Mishra learns of the Phyrexians. And what happens is, as Mishra sort of gets tainted by the Phyrexians, he gets more and more evil. And he's like, okay, Phyrexians, I will join you and I will defeat my brother Urza.
And then they build a bunch of machines. Urza's like, this machine will crush Mishra. And Mishra's like, this machine will crush Urza. And they're like strip mining everything, like that card strip mine, you know. And they have like war machines, like Mishra has a war machine, like that card, Mishra's war machine. And then, you know, they're fighting a bunch, and it's getting worse and worse.
And so, as the things build up, Urza realizes how horrible the Phyrexians are. And Urza's like, I vow, I will forever stop the Phyrexians. And he says that, and he really means it. And it comes up again and again, so remember that.
And so Urza decides, you know what, it's time to put a stop to all this. So he gets the most powerful artifact of them all, which is like a designer bowl. He's like, that's a cool bowl. I bet I could use it to have an apocalypse.
And he uses it to just destroy a good chunk of Dominaria. Not all of it, but a good chunk of it. And just decimates things, and he kills his brother Mishra. And he's like, no! I had to do it, but no! And he's really sad, and he sparks. He becomes a planeswalker.
And now that the war is over and he's gone, he's obsessed with reversing Mishra's death. And he wants to punish the Phyrexians because he holds them responsible.
And so he decides, okay, what do I need? I need to start a wizard school. And he's like, hey, everybody, send me your young wizards. No, there certainly won't be any unethical experimentation on them. What would give you that idea? And so they all come from all over the world to his extremely dangerous and irresponsible wizard academy, the Tolarian Academy.
Not all of the professors were exactly trustworthy. Some of them were involved in some highly unethical experiments. People were constantly being torn apart by time rifts, or just old-fashioned blown up in laboratory accidents.
And then Urza builds Karn just to be this probe. He's just supposed to kind of travel through time and check stuff out. And everybody's like, hey, Urza, are you gonna name it? And he's like, why would I name it? It's a thing. And the probe is like, hey, I'm right here, man. And then Joyra comes and names him Karn and is his friend. Joyra's like, Karn, you're my friend. Karn's like, what's a friend? And she explains, this is what a friend is. And then he's like, oh, Joyra is my friend, so that's great. And so then Urza starts sending Karn on trips into the past in his time machine. He can only go like a little bit into the past, so it's like, you know, I can't remember where I left my keys. Can you like go look like an hour ago when I had them last, kind of stuff. But it's definitely time travel, so that's good.
In trying to make all the time things happen, he ends up creating an explosion! A temporal disaster happens! Because once again, messing with time is really not a good idea. But Urza's like, no! I regret most of what I've done!
And there were just bubbles of time everywhere. It's just fast time and slow time, and it was like you'd be walking along and like suddenly you'd age 100 years.
So now they refound the Academy on this island where time is fractured, and Urza being Urza isn't like, wow, this is so terrible, how can I fix it? He's like, wow, I can do some cool experiments now that time is broken. He's not gonna let a little thing like breaking time get in the way of him doing what he really loves, which is hating Phyrexians.
Urza's like, I shall make a mighty weapon called the Weatherlight, and it should be a ship, a flying ship that can go between planes. And when assembled correctly with the various items called the Legacy, will become the Legacy weapon that can stop the Phyrexians.
And he goes to Joyra, he's like, I built it. Like, wow, it's like 300 feet long and it's sleek and it can go like faster than the speed of sound. What do you think? Joyra's like, it's okay, I guess. Urza's like, fine, whatever, you're the captain.